Hello, my name's Richard Heath, and I'm sitting here with Anthony Blake, who's helping me facilitate a little section of the 12th Systematics Gathering about the politics of number. We're sitting in Scotland, which is where I've been living for the last 10 years, or 20, but 10 years, writing 3 books as a principal activity. And these books will introduce an increasing emphasis for me on the politics of number as a storyline, which is more than just the kind of geeky concerns which people who are obsessed with sacred number and so on may get involved with, sacred geometry, and as if everybody's got to know all those facts before they can know anything. But the politics of number actually turns out to be extraordinarily significant. The first book I wrote is called Matrix of Creation. The word matrix signifying that the structure of time that we find on Earth is actually very sophisticated, and unusually so for a system that supposedly came into existence through accidental forces. And it's thought that this structure of time led, for instance, to the megalithic culture, which is largely not understood by us today because it exists in prehistory and has only left these large stone monuments behind, which we will learn more about in the course of these films. So my second book started to come into relationship with a more political type of message. Was how had sacred number been in some way one of the original forces behind human culture and civilization? And the essence of this was to understand, obviously, the basis of sacred number, with its fourfold characteristics of being about astronomy, geometry, the arithmetic, and what's the other one, Tony?
Music.
Music, that's right. We probably won't go too much into the music, but we will look at some of it later. And what started to emerge for me was the dynamism of the presentation, because history does appear to have a structure, as you would describe a structure in systematics. It has start points, end points, middle points. It has relationships between things that were earlier and things that were later. And in the middle of the noughties, as we call them, we seem to become dominated with the idea of conspiracy, and then terrorism, and eventually a popular novel in the form of Dan Brown and other books of supposed non-fiction, or pseudo-history as it was called, that sought to reinterpret the world as being run by some secret organisations such as Freemasons or Knights Templars, Cistercian and Benedictine monks, who had in some way inherited the megalithic and then called pagan traditions, and repurposed them towards the forging of what became a very powerful Western concept of civilization, some of which was effectively borrowed, begged or stolen, along with the land, as Christianity fought back against the similarly competitive, successful structure of Islam. And out of this structure of thinking comes the idea that, for instance, the Normans, who were kings of England after they invaded from Normandy, but were themselves of Norse origin, that they had a relationship as royals with a sacred aspect of power that we found in the that became the Christian orders, who built churches on places that were formerly sacred to the pagans, thus in a sense having a knowledge of how the spiritual world interacts with the material world, and this has a relationship with what we call the sky, on which we projected our gods originally, and from whom we thought some kind of an intelligence would come or can come, and we should cooperate with the gods and so on. This was replaced with the external Christian culture based on Judaism, actually, of a God who was controlling things, had his own personal history. This history was a linear history to Armageddon, and that we were no longer in the eternal world of cycles of time, but were caught up in his story, the history of the male deity and his progress, in which we could be rejected and damned, or we would be saved, which is not exactly very compatible actually with some of the core ideas of early Christianity. So there we have a conspiracy again. Now, when we're looking at number in a cosmic perspective and time, we are collecting ideas of how number can be manipulated and viewed that have a relationship to systematics. Now, Bennett suggested that number was intimate with will, purpose and action. That when you look at a situation, you can get to the point of seeing that there are a limited number of terms that are therefore that number belongs to, in some way, a world of number in which the structuring of will is relating itself to a medium of number. And so, even though my work has been not focused on systematics as such, when looking at the megalithic and sacred sciences, in fact you need to know, and one does need to know, that the cosmos is an effective systematic structure because all of existence is apparently derived from it. And so behind all of the structure of will, we find a politics of number, because the politics is what I might call the true urgency that makes things happen, and it also, the structure of will defines how things don't happen as well. And that's another aspect of systematics. If I'm saying to myself, why is this not working? I can say, well, what part of what my structure is not working? You know, and therefore it maybe has in the future a political aspect and a diagnostic aspect as to how to make things work.